So today we're going to be looking at some of the logos, insignias, and terms used for some of the major auto companies around the world. And for our study, as always, we will be using the English septenary cipher. What we're going to come to find is that many of these names and logos used by these major auto producers focus on themes used within the studies of astrology and sacred geometry. We're going to see that this happens far too much for it to be simple coincidence. A perfect example is the CBS logo with the eye of the nation, or the eye on the nation, if you will. This eye within the CBS logo is created with the Vesica Piscis, which is two circles overlapping on each other's centers. The Vesica Piscis is a geometric cornerstone used by sacred geometers of old and is one used within Christian iconography, Islamic art. It's used within architectural themes like in churches and whatnot, and is found prominently displayed in governmental buildings such as the UN and Washington, D.C., to name but a few. These symbols undoubtedly have an effect on the deep recesses of the human psyche, acting on our subconscious unbeknownst to most of us. Otherwise, they would not be effective and these symbols wouldn't be used. Geometry is composed of the word geo, meaning earth, and metry, meaning to measure, and therefore geometry literally means earth measure. Geometry isn't something dreamed up by the overactive and wild imaginations of man. Geometry, just like the word tells you, comes from nature itself. The fact that snowflakes fall from the heavens in crystallized geometric forms should tell you all you need to know about the underpinning role geometry plays in the creation of our experiential reality. In Gnostic and occult religious studies, one of the central themes utilized is that of the occult anatomy of man, astral body of man, or sometimes just termed the zodiac man. This is where the houses of the zodiac represent particular aspects of the human body. So, for instance, we have the two fish of Pisces representing the feet, we have Aquarius representing the calves, Capricorn the knees, Sagittarius the thighs, etc., etc. According to this mystical study, the vehicle or body of man is a microcosmic reflection of the macrocosm, or the body of stars or heavens above. The cosmic forces and geometric templates revealed within the heavens above are reflected within the astral body of man below, securing the notion of man's direct connection to the heavens. In 12-house astrology, the sun rises in the house of Aries, the sign of the ram. Aries is a fire sign, as each house is given a distinction of earth, air, water, and fire, and Aries' ruling planet is Mars. The time of Aries is the time of the vernal equinox, the time when the sun passes over the equinoctial equator, allowing spring to spring up and life to begin anew on Earth. On the zodiac man, the sign of Aries the ram is assigned to the head, with this being a direct reference to the pineal gland and the awakening of one's inner eye in the process of spiritual illumination. This Lamb of God, or Ram of Aries, is going to be a prime focus of our investigation. And to note, the Lamb of God symbolism is well known to be associated with the Christian Messiah, or Jesus, and there have been several prominent mythical figures such as Attis and even the Egyptian Osiris that have been known to be shepherd gods. By marking with a simple line the solstices and equinoxes on the circle of the year, this thus creates the geometry of pi when drawn out astrologically. So the first thing we're going to do is try to find all the places where the spring equinox or the Aries or Ram symbolism is found in car logos. And let's start with the most obvious. The Dodge Ram is one of Dodge's biggest selling vehicles, and obviously the Dodge Ram is created with the Ram logo. And using English gematria, Dodge equals 22 and Ram equals 7. And 22 divided by 7 is the ancient abbreviation of the ratio of pi, or 3.142. This approximation is still in wide use today in many different mathematical disciplines. The interesting thing about the number 7 that we found in Ram is that 7 using English gematria is the number 65551. Well, this is just the mirror opposite of Aries being 15556. How about Volvo? Here we see the symbol of Mars, with Mars being the planet that rules the house of Aries, so Mars is assigned to the house of Aries. By the way, notice that Mars and Rams are anagrams for one another. Pretty interesting. Aries marks the equinox on the circle of the year, and Volvo is written with a line cutting through a circle, creating not only what would be the equinoctial marker, but the circumference and diameter of the geometry of pi. The logo for the Japanese automaker Nissan is quite interesting. The Nissan Car Company Limited includes the Infiniti, Datsun, and French Renault lines. The Nissan logo is created yet again by the ratio of pi, with clearly a diameter running through a circle. Pretty simple logo. The word Nisan is very close to the Hebrew word Nisan, and Nisan is the Hebrew word for the month of March. With the diameter of the circle marking the equinoxes of the year once again, and Nisan meaning March, we can see, yet again, a reference to the house of Aries and the sign of the ram, and the rebirth of the sun every day and every year. Here we have the Infiniti logo. It's interesting to note that we have been finding pi here and there in these logos, and pi is considered an infinite and transcendental number. According to Infiniti themselves, their logo consists of two central lines leading off into an infinite point on the horizon. The word horizon in English gematria sums to 22, and 22 divided by the 7 letters in horizon equals 3.142. The horizon is the marker between day and night, east and west, and is, of course, quintessential in tracking the ascension and declination of the sun, moon, stars, and planets. As we can see, Datsun also mimics the geometry of pi yet again with a line slashing through an oval, which is very reminiscent of its parent logo, Nissan. Also notice the sun in the name of Datsun, said to have been chosen as a way to honor the sun depicted in the Japanese flag. The symbol for Renault, another line from Nissan, is two triangles, one pointing up and one pointing down, which echoes the core philosophy of as above, so below, a concept so often shared within the study of astrology. This idea is found within numerous other esoteric symbols such as the Freemasonic square and compasses, with the triangle pointing up, a triangle pointing down, the Seal of Solomon or the Star of David, with, once again, one pointing up, one pointing down, the emblem for the secret society Ordo Templi Orientis, and even the Grecian Chi Rho, which is an emblem for Jesus Christ, all mimic this basic symbology. Another subsidiary of Renault is the Romanian Dacia, whose logo is a letter D. Now notice the letter D in its most basic form is basically just a semicircle or a half circle, and thus the geometry of pi is alluded to within the letter D. Dacia in English gematria is the numbers 4, 1, 3, 5, 1, which is an anagram or numeric permutation of the first 5 digits of pi, 31415. Now this one's really interesting. Acura in English gematria is the numbers 13651. Notice the number 365, the number of days in the solar year, of course, found in the middle of Acura, with the pillars of the 1 and 1 flanking this key astrological number. Acura sums to 16. The word zodiac sums to 16 as well, with the zodiacal belt being an approximately 16-degree belt. So basically the constellations rest 8 degrees above or 8 degrees below, with the zodiacal belt being an approximately 16-degree belt. This number 16 reduces down to 7, with the word 7 once again summing to 22, and 22 divided by 7 is pi. And of course we have Pontiac. Pontiac points to pi as well. Pontiac equals 22 in English gematria, and once again has 7 letters, and 22 divided by 7 equals 3.142. So the next time you're driving in your Pontiac Sunfire, you should stop for a second and realize just how esoteric your vehicle is. Pontiac equals 22 and has 7 letters, and 22 divided by 7 is pi, and sun, of course, is a reference to the sun, and fire is a reference to the sign of Aries, the place where the sun rises every day and every year. The newly designed Oldsmobile logo strongly alludes to the geometry of pi once again, with a line striking through the O of Oldsmobile, giving you roughly a circumference and diameter. The Holden logo depicts a lion with its paw on a globe, with the lion being a representation of the House of Leo. And just a little funny mention here, the lion's paw that we see there, paw in English gematria, P-A-W, is the letters 314. Peugeot also shares the lion symbolism. We also have the Italian auto company Abarth. We can easily recognize the sign of Scorpio here, and the company tells us that they use the scorpion because that is the astrological sign of the owner. It's just pretty interesting that they decided to use an astrology sign for the logo. We have the Bull of Taurus on the symbol for Lamborghini, which again, the owner of the company, Ferruccio Lamborghini, says this logo represents his astrological sign. And here we have the logo for Subaru. According to Subaru themselves, the Subaru logo represents the 6 most visible stars in the Pleiades, with the Pleiades being a total of 7 stars total. The Pleiades actually sits in the constellation of Taurus, so here we see yet again another reference to the stars. Alfa Romeo, the Italian automaker, has a Bisione, or serpent eating a human being, next to a cross with a crown at the top of their logo. The symbol of the serpent and cross, often with a winged disc or crown on the top of the symbol, is a mainstay in the study of esotericism. The caduceus, or staff of Hermes, or rod of Asclepius, it's given a bunch of different names. This caduceus is said to represent the serpentine energy of Kundalini and the spiritual ascension of the soul up one's spinal column, with the rod, shaft, or scepter representing the spinal column itself. The caduceus is proudly displayed in esoteric Christianity, alchemy, Freemasonry, Hermeticism, Roman and Grecian symbology, the list goes on and on. The caduceus is the chief symbol for modern medicine, and in English gematria, caduceus just so happens to start with the numbers 314. The word Cadillac, by the way, also begins with these 3 numbers. The ancient Egyptian winged disc is often depicted as part of the caduceus. This circular disc is said to represent the human soul, with the outstretched wings being references to the soul's flight or ascension to the heavens above. This symbol is found on several logos such as Bentley, Chrysler, Aston Martin, the Netherlands Donkervoort, and the Mini Cooper are all symbolic examples of a winged disc. Though this next one's going to be quite obscure for most folks, I need to mention it here because how important it is. Many researchers before have noted that the V and W constructing the symbol of Volkswagen is a representation of a particular type of mathematics, most assuredly understood and utilized in the past and rediscovered by modern mathematician Marco Rodin. Vortex-based mathematics is a mathematics that utilizes the fundamental reduction property used within numerology to create an infinitely looping circuit within a circle by using the digits 1 through 9. This circuit may be divided or multiplied repeatedly and ad infinitum and will always return to its initial source. The path this circuit naturally creates produces the basic architecture of the symbol of Volkswagen or the V and W. And what you see here is an animation and representation of vortex-based mathematics, and you can clearly see the V and W being alluded to in the logo. If you want to learn more about vortex-based mathematics, I'll leave a link below. The logo for Mitsubishi forms a triangle, with 3 geometric forms known as rhombi separating it further into 3 pieces. This logo is reminiscent of and cleverly encodes the highly arcane Pythagorean tetractys. The tetractys is a symbol widely prevalent within mysticism and the study of sacred number. The tetractys is simply the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 unfolding into a triangle. These 4 numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4, sum to 10. The tetractys, or particularly the sides of the tetractys, is also known as the Platonic lambda. Now notice the lamb or ram of Aries in the term lambda. The lambda is the 11th letter of the Greek alphabet, and in the Greek system of numerals, lambda has a value of 30, with 30 being the degrees assigned to each of the houses of the 12 ages of the zodiac. And then from 1985 to 2000, we have the brief life of the Saturn car company. Saturn is, of course, one of the planets revolving around us in our zodiacal belt, and the god Saturn was known by the Greeks as Kronos, or the chronological god, if you will. Saturn is often depicted as the timekeeper, and is the planet that many correlate to be symbolic of Satan himself. This correlation is interesting in that Saturn rules the house of Capricorn, the sign of the sea goat, and the house where the winter solstice occurs. The marking of the winter solstice is where the sun symbolically dies on the cross, or where the length of days is the shortest of the year, and hence the symbolic death of the sun, if you will. In opposition to the Capricornian sea goat, we have another member of the Ovis family being the ram, or the lamb of the spring, the equinox marking the rebirth of the year. So we have a blessed pure white lamb of God, or ram, marking the rebirth of the year in spring, representing the rebirth of life, and we have a ram or Saturnian sea goat marking the death of the sun in winter. Makes sense why the devil or Satan is so often depicted as a loathsome and odious goat. The goat represents the death of the sun, the death of life, and the death of the year in winter. And then we have here the Ford logo, and who am I kidding? Ford's pieces of shit. There's nothing esoteric on the Ford logo. It's silly. But we do have the Ford Taurus, with Taurus being the constellation of the bull, the Ford Galaxy, and for all of us flat earth folks out there, there's even a Ford Edge. The BMW logo is exoterically proclaimed to be an illustration of the spinning propeller of an airplane engine, as BMW was originally an aircraft engine manufacturer. Regardless, by coincidence or not, in the BMW logo, we are given the Holy Cross or quadrant of the year, marking the solstices and equinoxes and the 4 seasons. In English gematria, the letters BMW sum to 7, with 7 equaling 22, and 22 once again divided by 7 equaling a common and widely used approximation of pi. The number 3 is also highlighted quite often in logos, with the number 3 being a quintessential aspect of astrology, with there being 3 qualities or distinctions given to the houses of the zodiac, with those being cardinal, fixed, and mutable. The number 3 also plays a major role in astrology in that each quadrant houses 3 signs. The Mitsubishi logo, as we saw earlier, is an equilateral triangle split into 3 diamonds or rhombi, once again expressing through the simple power of symbol the number 3. And here we have Maserati with its 3-pointed trident, with the trident representing yet another astral body, Neptune, the Roman god of the sea. And we have Mercury with its M, or 3 lines, with Mercury being one of the planets in the zodiac, of course. We have Mahindra with its M and 3 lines once again. The Mercedes-Benz logo with its 3 points, dividing the circle into the mighty 3, implying or insinuating the triangle yet again. Buick has its 3 shields. Toyota has 3 ovals, 2 forming the T, and 1 encircling the logo. Let's not forget to mention here that Toyota is symbolized by the letter T in its logo, and T in English gematria is designated by the number 7, and as we know, 7 encodes pi. And one last one here, we have 3 Falchion swords on the emblem of the automobile manufacturer Lister. The logo for Chevrolet is known as a bow tie or a cross, akin to the cross of the year marking the solstices and equinoxes. And the cross is colored silver and gold, colors recognized by the 2 main luminaries being the golden sun and silvery moon. Chevrolet is composed of the word chevro, similar to the word chevron, with a chevron being the triangular shape or formation that birds fly in, with this being yet another reference to the Holy Trinity and the number 3. There's even a Chevron car company as well. And one last one here. The word Lexus in English gematria sums to 22. So LEXUS is 25366, and this sums to 22. Notice that the letter L in the logo for Lexus is italicized or slanted. If we look at this letter from above, or turn it right side up, notice that we suddenly create what clearly looks like a number 7. So Lexus equals 22, and with the L becoming 7, 22 divided by 7 is, once again, 3.142, or pi. The use of these symbols by corporations and organizations of all kinds represents the understanding and utilization of an ancient occult body of knowledge that is actively working within our world today and in the hands of some very wealthy and very powerful people. Those in power have adorned their corporations with deeply esoteric and mystically charged symbology because those at the very tippy top, the self-appointed elites if you will, in my opinion, are in possession of this knowledge and have every intention of using it for their own gain as opposed to sharing such wisdom openly for the betterment of humanity. These icons and symbols represent grand truths and universal verities about the divinity of our world and the sacredness of man's place in it. And from what I can tell, those in power aren't looking to share this information with you and I. It makes you wonder, behind all that metal and plastic and vinyl and rubber, what are they really driving us into? Thanks for watching, everyone. I got a bunch more videos I'm working on. If you enjoy this content, please share it with your friends and family and on your social media and whatnot. Subscribe to my newsletter on my website, and please support me on Patreon and help me continue to make more content and videos and lectures for y'all. All right, that's going to do it for me today. As always, many blessings and much love to all.